Human sperm saves alien civilization from extinction. But that's just the beginning of the most terrifying sci-fi stories ever recorded. Marcus Sterling answered a farming job posting and discovered his real work involved impregnating dozens of desperate alien women whose species faced genetic collapse. What he didn't know was that human DNA doesn't just create hybrid babies. It activates ancient technology buried beneath their world that could reshape galactic civilization forever. When a ruthless alien empire arrives to steal both the women and the awakening weapons, one terraformer must prove humanity deserves to inherit cosmic power beyond imagination. Ready for the most shocking job requirement in sci-fi history? Smash that like button, share this incredible story, and comment your country below. Subscribe for more mind-bending sci-fi stories. Part 1. The Deceptive Arrival. The transport pod hissed open, releasing a cloud of cryogenic vapor that dissipated quickly in the warm, copper-tinted air of Nebulon 7's landing bay. Marcus Sterling stepped out, rolling his shoulders to work out the stiffness from the long journey. Standing 6 feet 2 inches, with a physique that spoke of years spent terraforming hostile worlds and working in zero-gravity construction, he cut an impressive figure even among the diverse array of beings that populated the spaceport. Damn, they weren't kidding about the heat, he muttered, unzipping his matte charcoal environmental suit. The advanced fabric had served him well on dozens of colony worlds, its adaptive fibers automatically regulating temperature and protecting against atmospheric toxins. Sweat already beaded on his forehead, dampening his dark brown hair. He grabbed his compact hard shell case, a rugged thing with biometric locks and impact-resistant plating, and made his way toward the exit. The case contained everything he owned in the universe. A few changes of clothes, personal items, his terraforming certification, and the data chip containing his discharge papers from the Colonial Development Corps. The job posting had been vague but promising. Human specialist needed for agricultural development on Nebulon 7. Excellent compensation. Housing provided. Unique opportunity for the right candidate. After 8 years of turning barren rocks into livable worlds and another 2 of mining asteroid belts, the idea of quiet agricultural work sounded like paradise. As Marcus walked through the spaceport, he noticed something odd. His portable atmosphere scanner, a device he always kept clipped to his belt, was showing unusual readings. The air contained trace amounts of organic compounds that seemed to respond to his presence, shifting and intensifying as he moved. He'd never seen anything like it in all his years of planetary analysis. A holographic map guided him to the village of Luminaris, a small settlement nestled between rolling hills and dense forests of alien vegetation that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. The transport dropped him at the village edge, where the path turned from metallic composite to packed soil that felt strangely warm beneath his boots. This is it, Marcus said to himself, taking in the rounded structures that reminded him of Earth's adobe buildings, but with a distinctly alien aesthetic. Organic curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse faintly with bioluminescence. Time to start the simple life. As he crossed the threshold into the village proper, he noticed something that made him pause. There were no men, or at least no male presenting beings visible anywhere. His terraforming training had taught him to observe settlement patterns, and this was unprecedented. Instead, a group of humanoid females with cool turquoise skin that glowed faintly with bioluminescent freckles watched him approach. Their long silver-white hair glistened in the alien sunlight, and they wore elegant garments that seemed to blend natural fibers with advanced technology. One of them stepped forward. She was slightly taller than the others, with more pronounced facial features and deep amber eyes that seemed to glow from within. Her presence commanded attention without effort, and Marcus felt his atmosphere scanner spike with activity. "You must be the human who responded to our posting," she said, her voice melodic with an accent that made standard Galactic sound almost musical. "I am Zara, daughter of matriarch Valora." Marcus nodded, extending his hand. Marcus Sterling, former CDC terraforming specialist, looking for agricultural work. Zara looked at his hand for a moment, before taking it in her own. Her skin was cool to the touch, almost like silk over marble. But something else happened. The moment their skin made contact, Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation, and his scanner went wild with readings he couldn't interpret. "We should speak privately," she said, her freckles pulsing slightly brighter. "There is much to explain about the nature of your work here." Inside the building, Marcus found himself in a surprisingly spacious chamber with curved walls that seemed to absorb and redistribute light in a way that eliminated shadows. Advanced biotechnology was woven seamlessly into the organic architecture. Zara offered him a seat on a cushioned bench and sat across from him, her amber eyes studying his face intently. "Our posting was incomplete," she began, her hands folded in her lap. "We do need help with agricultural development, but there is another matter of far greater urgency." Marcus' expression remained neutral, but wariness crept into his gray eyes. In his experience, when employers weren't upfront about job requirements, it usually meant trouble. "I'm listening." "Our people, the Luminari, have faced a genetic crisis for the past decade. A mutation has affected our reproductive capabilities, resulting in the birth of almost exclusively female offspring. The few males born have severe health issues and rarely survive to adulthood." She paused, a faint blush coloring her cheeks turquoise. 3 years ago, the last adult male in our village died." Marcus' brow furrowed. "I'm sorry for your loss, but I don't see how a terraforming specialist can help with genetic issues." "Human and Luminari DNA is compatible," she interrupted, her voice growing softer. "We verified this through extensive research conducted by our scientists and confirmed by ancient texts that speak of sky dwellers who would come in our darkest hour." "Ancient texts," Marcus repeated slowly. The implications were starting to sink in, but he needed to hear it clearly stated. "Your species can help us continue our lineage," Zara said, meeting his eyes directly. "But more than that, our preliminary scans suggest that human genetic material doesn't just enable reproduction. It enhances our natural abilities and provides immunity to the bioweapons that caused our crisis." The realization hit him like a plasma discharge. "Wait, you're saying you want me to father children with willing Luminari women?" "Yes," Zara finished for him. That is the primary reason we sought a human male. Your terraforming background made you ideal because you understand ecosystem balance and adaptation. What we're asking for is a different kind of seeding. Marcus stood abruptly, nearly knocking over a delicate-looking sculpture that seemed to be grown rather than carved. This is insane. I came here for agricultural work, not to be some kind of breeding partner. You would still work with our cultivation systems, Zara said quickly. The agricultural position is genuine, and our bioresponsive crops do require human oversight. But yes, we hope you would consider helping us preserve our people. I need to leave, Marcus said, grabbing his case. This isn't what I signed up for. Zara rose as well, but made no move to stop him. Please at least stay the night. The next transport doesn't leave until tomorrow. Think about what I've told you. Consider that this could be about more than just our village. Marcus paused at the doorway. Every instinct told him to walk away immediately, but something in Zara's eyes, a mixture of hope and desperation, made him hesitate. And there was something else. His scanner was still registering those strange atmospheric changes, as if the very air around the village was responding to his presence. One night, he agreed reluctantly, but I'm not making any promises. Zara nodded, relief washing over her features. Thank you. I'll show you to your quarters. As they walked through the village, Marcus noticed the curious glances from other Luminari women. Some looked hopeful, others skeptical, but all seemed intensely interested in his presence. More concerning, his scanner showed that the atmospheric readings were intensifying, as if something dormant in the environment was awakening to his human biochemistry. His quarters turned out to be a small but comfortable dwelling on the village edge, with a clear view of the bioluminescent fields beyond. The crops themselves seemed to pulse more brightly as he approached, confirming his growing suspicion that there was far more to this situation than a simple reproductive crisis. Rest well, Zara said from the doorway. We'll talk more tomorrow. There are things about our world and about humans that you need to understand. After she left, Marcus sat heavily on the bed, running a hand through his hair while studying his scanner readings. What the hell have I gotten myself into? He muttered to the empty room, but as he watched the alien crops responding to his mere presence, he couldn't shake the feeling that this strange job offer might be connected to something much larger than he'd ever imagined. Part 2. The challenge emerges. That night, Marcus barely slept. His mind raced with thoughts of the bizarre situation, but more troubling were the dreams. Vivid images of ancient structures buried deep beneath the village, pulsing with the same energy signatures his scanner had detected. In the dreams, he saw symbols that looked almost familiar, as if encoded in some deep part of human genetic memory. By morning, he'd made his decision. He would leave on the first transport and find work elsewhere, somewhere that didn't involve becoming an interspecies genetic donor. But when he stepped outside, the sight that greeted him gave him pause. Zara stood in the field beyond his dwelling, working alongside several other women. They moved with grace and purpose, tending to luminescent plants that seemed to respond to their touch. But what caught Marcus' attention was how the crops reacted when they saw him watching. The bioluminescent patterns shifted, becoming more complex and vibrant, as if the plants were trying to communicate. There was something beautiful about the scene, something that spoke of a community fighting for survival against impossible odds. And when Zara looked up and saw him watching, the small, hopeful smile she offered stirred something unexpected within him. "Damn it," he whispered to himself. "Just one more day to understand what I'm walking away from." Over breakfast, Zara introduced him to Kira, the village's xenobotanist and cultural historian. Kira was a petite Luminari, with intricate patterns of brighter turquoise markings along her arms that seemed to pulse with her excitement. "Human terraforming techniques are fascinating," she exclaimed, leading Marcus to a structure filled with holographic displays and what appeared to be ancient artifacts. "We've studied your species extensively, but having a living terraforming specialist here is invaluable." For the next several hours, Marcus found himself engaged in a technical exchange that was part scientific consultation and part cultural immersion. Kira showed him Luminari biotechnology, their symbiotic relationship with their crops, and their methods of atmospheric cultivation. "Your concept of mechanized terraforming is so different from our approach," Kira noted, her eyes wide with fascination. "We grow our environments rather than building them, but your scanner readings suggest human biochemistry might bridge both methods." Marcus studied the data she showed him. "You're saying my presence is actually changing your crop's growth patterns?" "Not just changing them," Kira replied, her freckles brightening. "Enhancing them. The plants are producing compounds we've never seen before. It's as if they're evolving in real time to accommodate human biology." By midday, he was working alongside Lyra, the agricultural systems specialist who would oversee the practical aspects of his terraforming consultation. Unlike Kira's academic enthusiasm or Zara's dignified warmth, Lyra was practical and direct. "These are luminosa roots," she explained, showing him a phosphorescent tuber that pulsed gently in her hands. "They require specific biorhythmic handling. Too much pressure, and they release a defensive toxin that can sterilize soil for years." As they worked side by side in the fields, Marcus found himself increasingly aware of Lyra's proximity. When their hands occasionally brushed while handling equipment, her skin would pulse with light, and she would quickly look away. More importantly, his scanner showed dramatic spikes in atmospheric enhancement wherever they worked together. "Is that bioluminescent response involuntary?" he finally asked after the third such occurrence. Lyra's freckles flashed brightly. "Yes. Our luminescence responds to emotional states and biocompatible presences. It's completely involuntary." "So you're basically glowing because I'm here," Marcus said with a small smile. "That's an accurate comparison," she admitted, "though it serves evolutionary purposes beyond mere social signaling. Our bodies recognize genetic compatibility and respond accordingly." By evening, Marcus had met nearly a dozen Luminari women, each interaction carrying an undercurrent of both scientific fascination and potential intimacy. But more concerning was what his scanner continued to reveal. The atmospheric changes weren't random. They followed specific patterns that his terraforming training recognized as artificial, engineered. When he finally returned to his quarters, he found Zara waiting outside, her expression more serious than before. "Too overwhelming?" she asked perceptively. Marcus leaned against the doorframe, studying his scanner readings. It's more than that. Zara, what's really buried beneath your village? Her amber eyes widened slightly. You've detected the ancient structures. My equipment doesn't lie. Those aren't natural formations down there. They're technological, built by someone with an understanding of human biochemistry that predates our species' space travel by thousands of years. Zara stepped closer, her expression growing troubled. There are things we haven't told you about our world's history. The Luminari weren't the first intelligent species here. We built our settlement over ruins left by an ancient civilization we call the Architects. And these architects knew about humans, Marcus said, the pieces falling into place. Our sacred texts speak of sky dwellers who would arrive when we faced our darkest hour. Beings whose life essence could awaken the sleeping gifts of the architects and restore balance to our world. We thought it was mythology until our scientists detected human DNA markers in the ancient genetic samples preserved in the ruins. Marcus felt a chill despite the warm evening air. You're saying humans are connected to whoever built those structures? We believe humans may be descendants of the architects, or perhaps a related species they created before leaving our world. The technology beneath our village responds to human neural patterns in ways we've never been able to replicate. Before Marcus could respond to this revelation, a low rumble filled the air. Both of them looked up to see a sleek, predatory-looking ship descending toward the village landing area. Unlike the organic curves of luminary architecture, this vessel was all sharp angles and aggressive design. "Who is that?" Marcus asked, his terraforming instincts recognizing a potential threat. "Trouble," Zara replied grimly. "That's a Knyx Confederate ship." As they watched, the ship settled onto the landing pad with mechanical precision. A ramp extended, and a tall, imposing figure strode down. The newcomer was clearly male, but not human. His skin was deep indigo, almost black in the shadows, with ridged patterns along his exposed arms and face. His eyes were solid amber without pupils, and his movements had a fluid, predatory grace. "I challenge this proceeding," he announced in a resonant voice that carried clearly across the village square. "I am Draven of the Knyx Confederation, and I claim prior right to bond with the Luminari." Murmurs rippled through the crowd that had gathered. Matriarch Valora emerged from the central building, her expression carefully neutral, but her posture radiating authority. "The Knyx abandoned their treaty with us 5 cycles ago," she replied coolly. "You forfeited any claim to our people when you tried to harvest our genetic material by force." Draven's mouth curved in what might have been a smile, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp for comfort. "Circumstances change, Matriarch Valora. The Confederation has reconsidered its position. Our geneticists now believe Knyx luminary offspring would be superior to those produced with primitive terraforming species." His gaze flicked dismissively toward Marcus, who felt his temper flare. "The human has already been accepted," Valora stated firmly. "He has proven compatible with our biotechnology and our people." "Then I invoke the right of competitive claim," Draven announced, causing another wave of whispers through the crowd. "Let the women choose between us, after we have both demonstrated our worthiness through the ancient trials." Valora's expression tightened. "That is an old practice, rarely invoked, but still valid under Luminari law," Draven interrupted smoothly. unless you wish to violate your own sacred traditions to favor this human. Marcus leaned toward Zara. What's he talking about? He's challenging you for the right to bond with our women, she whispered urgently. It's an ancient tradition from when rival species would compete for alliance rights. 3 trials that test strength, wisdom, and compatibility. And if I refuse, Marcus realized, it would be seen as cowardice, she admitted. Many would question your commitment to our people and doubt your ability to provide strong genetic material. Marcus straightened his shoulders and stepped forward, his terraforming experience with hostile alien politics serving him well. I accept the challenge. Draven's amber eyes narrowed with predatory interest. Bold words for a species known for its fragility. Humans are full of surprises, Marcus replied evenly. Valora raised her hands for silence. The challenge is accepted. The trials will begin tomorrow at first light. 3 tests as prescribed by ancient law: strength, wisdom, and compatibility. She fixed Draven with a stern gaze. Until then, you are both guests of our village. There will be no conflict outside the formal trials. As the gathering dispersed, Kira approached Marcus, her expression troubled. Be careful with him. The Knyx are known for their cunning and complete lack of honor. Why would he suddenly appear now? Lyra wondered aloud, joining them. The Knyx haven't shown interest in Luminari affairs for years. Zara's eyes followed Draven as he was escorted to guest quarters. That's what concerns me. His timing is too convenient. It's as if he knew about the human arrival. Later that evening, as Marcus prepared for the next day's trials, Zara visited his quarters. Her usual composure seemed shaken. There's something you should know about the Knyx, she said, sitting beside him. They once sought to breed with Luminari women, but not for our survival. They discovered that our genetic material enhances their psychic abilities and extends their lifespans. They treated our ancestors as resources, not partners. Marcus' jaw tightened, and now they're back for more. I believe so. But there's more, Marcus. The ancient structures beneath our village, they don't just respond to human neural patterns. According to our oldest texts, they were designed to awaken only when both human and Luminari genetic material are present together. You're not just here to save our species. You're here to unlock whatever the architects left for us. What kind of technology are we talking about? Marcus asked. We don't know. But our myths speak of weapons that could reshape worlds, shields that could protect entire star systems, and knowledge that could elevate civilizations beyond anything the galaxy has seen. Marcus looked at his scanner, still registering those impossible readings. So tomorrow's trials aren't just about proving who gets to help your people reproduce. No, Zara confirmed, her amber eyes reflecting the gravity of the situation. They're about determining who gains access to technology that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. The Knyx know this. That's why Draven is really here. As if responding to their conversation, the ground beneath the village trembled slightly, and Marcus' scanner detected a surge of energy from the buried structures. Whatever lay dormant beneath Luminaris was beginning to stir, awakened by the presence of both human determination and Luminari hope. Tomorrow's trials would decide far more than the fate of one village. They would determine whether humanity's hidden legacy would be used to protect or to conquer. Part 3, Trials of Worthiness. Dawn broke over Luminaris with an eerie crimson glow that seemed to emanate from the ground itself. Marcus stood at his window, watching the village come alive with preparations for the first trial. His scanner showed that the energy readings from the buried structures had intensified overnight, as if the ancient technology was responding to the impending conflict. A soft knock at his door revealed Lyra carrying a tray of food and a steaming beverage. Pre-trial nutrition, she explained, setting it down. Specially formulated bioenhancers that work synergistically with human metabolism. Marcus eyed the strange concoction dubiously. It's not going to turn me turquoise, is it? Lyra's freckles pulsed with nervous amusement. No, though that might improve your chances against Draven. Her expression grew serious. The Knyx have natural advantages in physical contests. Denser muscle tissue, reinforced skeletal structure, enhanced reflexes. But they lack something humans possess in abundance. Good looks and charm, Marcus quipped, taking a cautious sip. The beverage tasted surprisingly pleasant, like cinnamon and starfruit. Adaptability, Lyra corrected, though her lips curved upward. Knyx are powerful but rigid in their thinking. They follow patterns, rely on brute force solutions. Your terraforming background gives you an advantage. You're trained to work with hostile environments by adapting rather than dominating. As Marcus finished his meal, Kira arrived with specialized clothing for the trial. Fitted garments made from bio-responsive fabric that seemed alive to the touch. Woven from the silk of quantum moths, she explained. It adapts to environmental pressures and enhances the wearer's natural abilities while providing protection. Thanks, Marcus said, noticing how her gaze lingered on him with obvious concern. Both of you. For everything. We have our own reasons to prefer you over Draven, Kira admitted, her freckles brightening. The Knyx view all other species as either resources or obstacles. They cannot conceive of true partnership. The gathering for the first trial took place in a natural amphitheater on the village outskirts. But Marcus immediately noticed something extraordinary. The stone formations weren't entirely natural. Ancient geometric patterns were carved into the rock, and his scanner detected the same energy signatures as the buried structures. This entire area was part of the architect ruins. Hundreds of Luminari had assembled, their collective bioluminescence creating waves of light that rippled through the crowd. At the center stood a circular platform of what looked like packed earth. But Marcus' equipment revealed it to be a complex biotechnological surface capable of energy manipulation. Draven was already there, his indigo skin gleaming in the morning light. He wore minimal clothing that displayed his muscular physique to full advantage. But more concerning were the energy readings Marcus detected from the alien. Draven was somehow interfaced with technology of his own. Seeing Marcus approach, Draven smiled coldly. I'm surprised you didn't flee during the night, human. It would have been the wiser choice. And miss the chance to show these remarkable people what human adaptability looks like. Marcus replied with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. Not a chance. Matriarch Valora stepped forward, raising her hands for silence. The first trial is strength, not merely of body, but of will and endurance. You must remain within the circle while forcing your opponent out. No weapons are permitted. but all natural abilities may be employed. She gestured to the platform, and the geometric patterns began to glow, creating a barrier of energy around the perimeter. The ancient technology was activating, responding to the presence of both contestants. "Begin," Valora commanded. Draven wasted no time, charging forward with startling speed that seemed enhanced beyond normal Knyx capabilities. Marcus barely sidestepped, feeling the rush of air as his opponent passed. The Knyx momentum carried him to the platform edge, but he stopped with impossible precision, as if guided by external assistance. Using the alien's position, Marcus attempted a counterattack, but it was like trying to move a mountain. Draven's strength had been artificially amplified. "First lesson, human," Draven sneered, grabbing Marcus' arm. "Knyx evolution cannot be matched by primitive terraforming strength." With a twist that sent pain shooting through Marcus' shoulder, Draven hurled him across the platform. Marcus rolled, stopping just short of the boundary, his terraforming training in low-gravity construction helping him control his momentum. The crowd gasped, but Marcus noticed something important. Where he had touched the platform, the ancient symbols flared brighter. The architect technology was responding to his human biology. "Is that all?" Marcus taunted, circling warily while subtly positioning himself over the brightest symbol clusters. "I've had rougher orientation sessions in asteroid mining facilities." Draven's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps you need a more educational experience." He lunged again, but this time Marcus was ready. Instead of dodging completely, he pivoted at the last moment, placing his hands flat against the platform. The ancient patterns erupted with light, sending energy coursing through his body. Marcus felt his reflexes sharpen, his strength multiply. Using Draven's own force against him while channeling the architect enhancement, Marcus delivered a precise strike to the back of the alien's knee, one of the few vulnerable points in Knyx anatomy. Draven stumbled, his amber eyes widening in surprise. "Impossible. No human possesses such power." "Maybe not," Marcus replied, feeling the ancient technology flowing through him. "But humans know how to work with their environment instead of fighting it." What followed was a brutal dance of attack and counterattack. But now Marcus had advantages beyond human adaptability. The platform responded to his movements, providing energy boosts and tactical information through some form of neural interface. Draven had raw power and technological enhancements, but Marcus had something unprecedented: a partnership with technology that recognized him as its intended user. Minutes stretched as both combatants tested each other's limits. Sweat poured down Marcus' face while Draven's breathing grew increasingly labored, his artificial enhancements apparently drawing heavily on his stamina. Finally, seeing Draven slightly off balance, Marcus executed a maneuver that combined his terraforming experience with the architect enhancement. A feint followed by a leverage-based throw that used the platform's energy field to redirect Draven's momentum. The Knyx's eyes widened in shock as he felt himself being lifted and redirected by forces beyond Marcus' physical strength. At the last moment, Draven grabbed Marcus' arm, trying to pull him over the boundary as well. They teetered on the edge, locked together, neither willing to yield. But the ancient technology made the difference. Energy flowed through Marcus, stabilizing his position while simultaneously disrupting Draven's artificial enhancements. With a final surge of determination channeled through architect systems, Marcus twisted his body, using precise leverage to redirect their combined momentum. Draven fell backward over the boundary, his connection to his technological aids severed by the platform's defensive systems. The energy barrier flashed as Draven crossed it, signaling the end of the match. A moment of stunned silence followed. Then the Luminari erupted in cheers, their collective bioluminescence pulsing in celebration. Marcus stood swaying, exhausted but victorious, the platform's glow fading as the ancient systems returned to dormancy. Zara rushed forward, supporting him as his knees threatened to buckle. "You did it," she whispered, her skin glowing with excitement. "You interfaced with the architect technology. No one has ever achieved that level of integration." Draven rose slowly, his expression a mixture of rage and calculation. "An unexpected outcome," he acknowledged stiffly, studying the now dormant platform with new understanding. "But this is only the first trial, human. The test of wisdom will reveal whether your connection to this ancient technology is genuine mastery or mere accident." As the Knyx stalked away, Kira and Lyra joined Marcus and Zara. "That was incredible," Kira gushed, her analytical mind clearly fascinated. "The platform recognized you as a legitimate user. The genetic markers in your DNA must match the architect database." "You found the perfect synthesis," Lyra added with professional admiration. "Adaptation and integration rather than domination." Marcus winced as Zara examined a bruise forming on his ribs, though the architect enhancement had prevented serious injury. "I'm going to feel this tomorrow." "Then we should ensure you're properly prepared for the wisdom trial," Zara suggested, her voice dropping to a suggestive tone that made her freckles pulse brightly. "Our traditional preparation techniques are quite effective for mental clarity," Lyra added with a meaningful glance at the others. "Very hands-on," Kira confirmed with scientific precision. Marcus looked between the three women, suddenly forgetting all about his aches and pains. "I'm starting to think the trials might be the easy part." Zara's laugh was like music. "Perhaps, but winning has its own rewards. And tomorrow, you'll face the labyrinth of reflection, where the architect technology will test not just your mind, but your very soul." As they led him back toward the village, Marcus caught sight of Draven watching them from the shadows, his amber eyes glowing with barely contained fury. The Knyx might have lost the first round, but Marcus knew the most dangerous trial lay ahead. In the labyrinth, brute force would be useless. He would have to prove that humans deserve to inherit the architect's legacy through wisdom, not strength. That evening, as Marcus prepared for the mental challenges ahead, Zara shared the most crucial revelation yet. "The labyrinth doesn't just test wisdom," she explained as they sat together in his quarters. "It's the central interface to all architect technology on our world. Whoever successfully completes the trial doesn't just win the right to bond with our people. They gain access to knowledge and power that could reshape the galaxy." Marcus studied his scanner readings, which showed the buried structures pulsing with increasing intensity. "And Draven knows this." "I believe the entire Knyx Confederation knows," Zara confirmed. "They're not here for genetic partnerships. They're here to claim humanity's birthright before we realize what we've inherited." Outside, The ground trembled again, and somewhere deep beneath the village, ancient systems continued their slow awakening. Tomorrow's trial would determine whether that power served to protect or to conquer, whether humanity's legacy would fulfill its intended purpose or fall into the hands of those who would abuse it. The wisdom trial couldn't come soon enough, and Marcus knew that everything, the fate of the Luminari, the balance of galactic power, and humanity's place in the cosmos hung in the balance. Part 4. The New Galactic Order. The labyrinth of reflection stood at the village's edge, but Marcus now understood it was far more than an ancient structure. It was the central hub of a vast technological network that extended beneath the entire planet's surface. His scanner readings showed energy conduits stretching for thousands of kilometers underground, connecting to similar installations on other continents. Matriarch Valora stood before the gathered Luminari, her ceremonial robes integrated with crystalline elements that resonated with the labyrinth's energy field. The second trial tests not merely the mind, but the soul's capacity to interface with the legacy left by the architects. Each challenger will enter alone and face the deepest truths of their nature. She turned to Draven and Marcus. You will enter simultaneously through separate portals. The labyrinth will configure itself according to your genetic patterns and neural architecture. Your paths will be uniquely tailored to test your worthiness to inherit the architect's gift. Draven stepped forward, his indigo skin rippling with confidence. I have trained for this moment my entire life. The Knyx understand mental discipline and technological integration far beyond human capabilities. We'll see about that, Marcus replied. But his attention was focused on the readings from his scanner. The energy signatures weren't just similar to human neural patterns. They were identical. Somehow, the architects had designed their technology specifically for human brains. Before he could approach his designated portal, Zara, Kira, and Lyra surrounded him. Each placed their palms against his temples in a triangular formation, their skin pulsing with synchronized light. We offer connection, Zara whispered, her amber eyes locked with his. Our consciousness joined with yours. A warm sensation flowed through Marcus' awareness. Not invasive, but supportive, like mental scaffolding that strengthened his thoughts. He felt their presence settle into the background of his consciousness, a comforting resonance that enhanced rather than controlled. Is this permitted under trial rules? Marcus asked. Valora, who had observed the exchange, nodded approvingly. The Luminari have always shared consciousness with their chosen partners during critical moments. It is part of our evolutionary development and entirely within ancient law. Draven hissed in disapproval, but remained silent. His amber eyes narrowed as he watched the mental bonding with obvious frustration. With final reassuring contact from Zara, Marcus approached his portal. The archway seemed to ripple as he passed through, and suddenly he was alone in a corridor that stretched before him. But this wasn't just stone and metal. The walls were alive with flowing patterns that matched his brainwave signatures. The first challenge manifested immediately. The corridor transformed into a memory from his terraforming days. The failed Kepler-7 colony, where atmospheric processors had malfunctioned, killing hundreds. The smell of toxic gases and the sound of dying colonists filled his senses, as ghostly figures materialized around him. "You failed us," they whispered in unison. "Your calculations were wrong. We died because of your incompetence." Marcus' heart raced as guilt threatened to overwhelm him. This was his deepest professional regret, the moment that had driven him to seek simpler work far from colonial development. But through the mental connection with the Luminari women, he felt their support, not controlling his thoughts, but helping him see beyond the illusion. "This isn't real," he said firmly to the phantoms. "And I didn't fail you. The sabotage by corporate interests caused the malfunction. I honored your sacrifice by exposing the truth." The illusion wavered, then dissolved, revealing a new passage forward. But Marcus could sense something else. Through an unexpected connection, he was receiving flashes of Draven's progress in his own trial. Visions of Knyx conquest, of Luminari women reduced to genetic resources, their bioluminescence harvested for technological enhancement. "His mind is closed to alternatives," came Zara's thought through their bond. "He cannot conceive of partnership, only domination." As Marcus progressed deeper into the labyrinth, the challenges became more complex. He faced moral dilemmas that had no clear right answers, puzzles that required intuitive leaps rather than logical analysis, and scenarios that tested his capacity for empathy and connection. But with each trial, his interface with the architect technology grew stronger. He began to understand that this wasn't just a test. It was an awakening process, gradually activating dormant potential in human neural architecture that the architects had somehow encoded in his species' DNA thousands of years ago. The final chamber presented Marcus with a choice that transcended personal victory. Before him stood a crystalline interface that pulsed with unimaginable power. Through it, he could sense the full network of architect installations across the galaxy. Defensive systems capable of protecting entire star systems, terraforming technology that could transform dead worlds in decades instead of centuries, and knowledge that could elevate any civilization to heights undreamed of. But accessing this power required a sacrifice. To fully integrate with the architect network, he would have to abandon his purely human perspective and become something new. A bridge between species, a guardian of galactic balance, but no longer entirely human. Through the mental bond, he felt the Luminari women's thoughts, their willingness to share this burden, to become part of something greater than any individual species. And in that moment, Marcus understood the true purpose of the trials. This isn't about proving worthiness, he realized aloud. It's about choosing to evolve. He placed his hands on the crystalline interface, feeling the architect technology flow through him like liquid starlight. But instead of taking control, he opened the connection to include Zara, Kira, and Lyra. Their consciousness merged with his, and through them, to the entire Luminari population. The labyrinth erupted with light that could be seen from orbit. When it faded, Marcus stood transformed. Still human in appearance, but with eyes that held depths of cosmic awareness, and skin that carried faint traces of Luminari bioluminescence. Draven materialized beside him, but the Knyx looked diminished somehow. His trial had ended in failure, his rigid mind unable to accept the sacrifices required for true integration with architect technology. Valora stepped forward as the labyrinth walls became transparent, revealing the assembled Luminari. The trials have revealed truth beyond our expectations. Marcus Sterling has not merely proven worthy of partnership with our people. He has activated the architect's final protocol. She gestured to displays that showed similar awakenings occurring across the galaxy. Wherever architect installations existed, the network was coming online, responding to the hybrid consciousness that Marcus and the Luminari had created together. "This changes everything," Marcus said, his voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before. "The architects didn't just leave us technology. They left us the template for galactic evolution." Draven's amber eyes blazed with fury. "The Knyx Confederation will not accept this outcome. We have fleets approaching this system." "Then they'll face the architect's true legacy," Marcus replied calmly. "Defensive systems that have been dormant for millennia are now active. This world is under protection that no conventional force can overcome." As if responding to his words, energy barriers materialized in orbit around Nebulon 7, intercepting and harmlessly deflecting incoming Knyx warships. The message was clear. The age of conquest through superior firepower was ending. The compatibility ceremony that followed was unlike anything in Luminari history. What should have been a simple reproductive ritual became the foundation of a new form of consciousness that bridged species boundaries. Marcus found himself connected not just to willing Luminari partners, but to the growing network of human volunteers who were beginning to arrive from Earth. News of the activation had spread through quantum communication networks faster than ships could travel. Earth governments, initially skeptical, were now sending their best terraformers, xenobiologists, and cultural specialists to help establish similar partnerships throughout the galaxy. 3 months later, the first hybrid children were born, but they were far more than anyone had anticipated. The infants carried not just human and Luminari genetic material, but active interfaces to architect technology. They could communicate with the ancient systems from birth, guiding defensive networks and terraforming protocols with intuitive understanding. Marcus stood in the village center, now expanded into a proper city that served as headquarters for the Galactic Partnership Initiative. Around him, dozens of species worked together on projects that would have been impossible before the architect awakening. Zara joined him, their infant daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms. The child's skin shifted between human and Luminari coloration as she dreamed, and her tiny hands occasionally glowed with the same energy signatures as the ancient technology. "Having regrets?" Zara asked, sensing his contemplative mood through their permanent mental connection. Marcus shook his head. "Just thinking about that job posting. Human specialist needed for agricultural development. They certainly undersold the position requirements." Zara laughed, the sound harmonizing with the alien music drifting from the cultural exchange centers. "Would you have come if it had said human needed to activate ancient galactic defense network through intimate partnerships with multiple alien species?" "Probably not," he admitted. "I would have assumed it was science fiction." "The universe works in mysterious ways," she mused, leaning against him while their daughter gurgled contentedly. "The Knyx tried to prevent our evolution, but instead catalyzed the very awakening they feared." As if summoned by their conversation, ships appeared in the sky above. But these weren't Knyx vessels. They carried human volunteers from Earth, other terraformers, and specialists who had answered the call to help establish partnership colonies throughout the galaxy. "They're going to need guidance," Marcus noted, watching the ships descend toward the expanded landing facilities. Human-alien cultural integration is more complex than most people realize. "That's why you're now Ambassador Sterling," Zara reminded him with a smile. "First official human representative to the Architect Network and coordinator of the Galactic Partnership Initiative." Marcus nodded, watching as his daughter reached toward the landing ships with tiny hands that sparked with ancient technology. The lost and directionless terraformer, who had arrived a year ago seeking simple agricultural work, was gone. In his place stood someone who had become the bridge between humanity's past and the galaxy's future. "Not bad for a farming job," he said, putting his arm around Zara as they walked toward the landing platforms to greet the newcomers. Behind them, the lights of new luminaries pulsed with harmonized human and alien consciousness, a beacon of what was possible when different species chose cooperation over conquest. And in orbit above, the Architect Defense Network stood ready to protect this new form of evolution from those who would destroy it. In the months that followed, similar partnership colonies spread across the galaxy. Each one became a node in the growing network of hybrid consciousness that guided ancient technology toward protecting rather than conquering. The Knyx Confederation, faced with defensive systems that rendered their warships obsolete, eventually sought treaties rather than continue futile attacks. Marcus had come to Nebulon 7 looking for a quiet life. Instead, he had awakened humanity's greatest destiny and helped birth a new form of galactic civilization. His children, carrying the genetic legacy of both human adaptability and luminary wisdom, would grow up as the first generation of a species designed not for conquest, but for connection. The simple agricultural job had indeed required seeding. But instead of crops, Marcus had planted the seeds of a galactic future where cooperation transcended competition, and where ancient wisdom guided modern technology toward protecting all life among the stars. And so Marcus Sterling discovered that sometimes the universe has a sense of irony that borders on the cosmic. What began as a desperate search for simple work became humanity's first glimpse into our species' true galactic destiny. A single job posting, vague and unremarkable, had led to the awakening of technology that would reshape civilization itself. But perhaps that's the most unsettling truth of all. How many other ancient legacies lie dormant across the galaxy, waiting for the right genetic key to unlock them? The Architect Network spans thousands of worlds, and Marcus' hybrid children are already showing abilities that exceed even their parents' enhanced capabilities. Their dreams sometimes carry visions of distant stars and sleeping technologies that pulse with patient hunger for activation. The Knyx were just the beginning. Deep in galactic databases, there are records of other species, older and more dangerous, who once competed with the architects for dominance. Species that went into hibernation rather than face extinction, waiting for the galaxy to forget their existence before emerging to reclaim what they believe is theirs. Marcus thought he was answering a call for agricultural work. In reality, he was accepting humanity's invitation to become gardeners of an entirely different kind. cultivators not of crops, but of the delicate balance between creation and destruction that will determine whether the galaxy's future grows toward light or withers in the shadows of ancient ambitions that refuse to remain buried.